Oh, hey there! You know, the more I think about it, video games are really just an amalgamation of common ingredients, specially mixed together to create a tasty treat. Let's talk about those ingredients. What's going on, everyone? Today we're going to do something a little different since it was a suggestion from a subscriber. So that's going to be a special thank you to Avery Cornelius because we are going to explore 5 of the most commonly used functions and nodes in my experience using Unreal Engine 4. This isn't going to be an extensive list since there's definitely more than 5, but I think it's a good idea to go in depth in a few powerful functions rather than kind of skim over like 100. Gotta start somewhere. So the first function that we're going to talk about is called spawn actor by class. This function allows you to spawn in an actor, which is one of the most common types of blueprints whenever it's called. You specify which of them you want to be spawned in and what the location is, and poof, when this event fires, it's going to be there. This can be used whenever a player drops an item, like in Breath of the Wild, or whenever you fire a projectile, like in any shooting game. One of the main positives is that you can promote this specific instance of the blueprint to a variable and have access to that specific instance at any time using this blueprint. It can be a little confusing when you're first dealing with blueprints inside of another blueprint, but it can be a really helpful tool. The second type of function that we're going to go over is called a for each loop. So I spawned this actor, the blocking actor, here in the level. Whenever I play, it's going to go ahead and spawn that in, and I can walk over to it. And I want something to happen when I interact with this blocking volume, but only if I have a specific equipment in my inventory. A for each loop can really help us with this, because a for each loop basically gives you the option to access each variable in a list, and we call a list of variables an array. Now, a for each loop and use of arrays can be a little more complex for beginners, but a good example is checking to see if a character in a game is holding a required quest item, like our pistol that we were talking about earlier. Imagine if you had a whole list of items and equipment and you need to check if any of them meet that requirement, if it's a pistol. A for each loop will go through an entire list of variables, the array, and allow you to do something with each of them. In this case, we're going to check each of them to see if any of them are the specific equipment that you need. This can be really handy with an inventory, but really a for each loop can help with any sort of array or any list of variables. We'll go into more in depth on these when we create an inventory in future videos. The third function or node that we're going to go over is called the branch node. We've briefly talked about branches in a previous video, and basically they are a function that splits and executes into 2 different paths. And the path that is executed in game is chosen based on the condition that's plugged into the condition input. Now, this condition simply has to be a true or a false, and this is determined with a boolean, which is notated as a red variable, or you can receive a boolean with other nodes like this, which is checking to see if this equipment class is equal to our pistol equipment class. That will give us a true or false, and we can use that for the branch. Now, branches are super helpful for any sort of checks in the game that the game needs to make. Here's an example of a branch in action. If Super Mario Bros. Was made in Unreal Engine 4, when you gain points and your score is raised, the function that raises your score would need to check to see if your score is greater than the max score that you could possibly receive. This would be done with the branch, and if it's true, the score would need to be reduced back down to your max score. If it's false, then nothing else would need to happen in that case. And another example of a branch is the one that we have here and that we're kind of working with during this video. We can check to see if we are currently holding in our inventory slots array the correct equipment in order to progress through the blocking actor. If we are, we're going to set that location to not block our path anymore. So the fourth function that we're going to go over is actually really similar to our spawn in the actor function. This one's called CreateWidget function. Similar to the spawn actor by class function, you can spawn in a widget whenever this is called. You can also promote this to a variable, that way you have access to it, and then you'll have to tell the engine what to do with it, which is normally just add it to the viewport. Now, since we have access to this specific instance of the widget, we can either change the visibility, or later on we can go ahead and remove it from parent, which is basically destroying a widget. I want to say this function is specifically handy whenever dealing with dialogue, like non-important, simple dialogue. It's really easy to just pop up some widgets on screen and go ahead and just make them disappear, change the visibility, or remove them from parent really easily whenever you're trying to do that. And this one might be cheating, but the fifth and final function that we're going to talk about is a custom function. And we've created a couple simple custom functions on this channel before, and I'm sure that you can already see their usefulness from that. Depending on what your game is trying to achieve, you can create a custom function to do just about anything. Do you need a character to teleport? Use a custom function. Need a character to grapple walls? Create a custom function. Need a character to level up? Create a custom function. There's really no limit to these functions, since you can make them do just about anything by having them execute other nodes and other functions within these custom functions. That one is kind of cheating, so I'll give you another one instead. Let's talk about select nodes. So a select node takes a condition called an index, similar to a branch, and then selects a value based on that condition. But sometimes there can be multiple different options other than just true and false. Like if your location of your character is in a lake region, you may want to change your minimap to show the picture of a lake. That picture can be tied to a select node as long as you set the variable to match every new region that the player enters. And before we end this video, let me actually just go through this simple project that I did using the 5 or 6 functions that we talked about today. What I wanted to do was really just have a blocking volume spawn here as soon as the player begins play. I wanted a pistol to be right near it, and we didn't go over that today. We didn't go over how to create inventories or pickups or anything like that, so don't worry about the pistol. But we do want to use the for each loop to check to see if our pistol is in our inventory and do something based on that. We want to create a widget, an interaction widget, whenever we get close enough in the radius of the blocking actor. And these events are set up using something called an interface. You can actually see it here on the left. We'll go over interfaces on another video as well, similar to the inventory and all that. I just want to focus on those functions that we went over earlier. So once we're in the radius of this blocking actor, we'll go ahead and create this interaction widget. We can see that as soon as we walk over to it and get within range, the interaction widget will go ahead and pop up. If we go back to our script, we do have this image here on our widget, and this image here, image 111, I can set the brush from texture, and that brush is going to be based on this condition from our blocking actor. If our blocking actor's required item variable is true, it will load in the forest texture. If it's false, it will load in the lake texture. And we can see right now it's our lake texture. If I hit E, nothing happens. If I pick up the pistol, go over to it and hit E, it'll change to our forest image. And that's using a select node. The way that I checked to see if I had a pistol in my inventory was here through the for each loop. When my character interacted with the blocking volume, it got my character's inventory, searched through all of my equipment slots with a for each loop. For each of those, it went ahead and broke down the information, checked to see if the class was equal to our pistol. If it was false, it did nothing and went to the next index in this array and did the same thing. If any of them were true, then it would set our required item variable, the one that our widget checks, to update the picture on our image 111. And then it sets the location of itself to a z coordinate lower than the one that was set when it was spawned. I do have to call the update function in our widget here. Otherwise, during gameplay, this picture won't update when you interact with it. You only want the picture to change in this case if the required item is changed to true. You can see the check mark means true. The default value is false. That way it doesn't change even if the pistol's not in your inventory. that's going to bring this video to a close. I know we went through a lot, and I definitely could have gone more in depth on all of the functions there, but I hope you learned something. Hopefully the example kind of going through the logic on the blocking volume really helped. Let me know if you want me to do more videos like this in the future. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate all the feedback that you guys have been giving me. I'm here to help you think like a game developer, so stick around for more videos like this.